For sure, there's a lack of funding. We do know that, the need for continuing education, there's that too, but all of that kind of comes back to funding. So even for our organization, we would love to give more presentations, but it's a lack of staffing. And then lack of staffing goes to funding. And so I think a lot of the issues we see where there's gaps might come back to the funding piece.
Any other questions? Don't see any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further testimony in support of House Concurrent Resolution 3028. We have somebody on.
Should have somebody online.
Okay, I don't see who's online. Hello, so all I see is a black screen. Are you online?
Hello?
Yes.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, but we can't see you. You have to turn on your monitor.
Oh, sorry. I'm a bit computer illiterate.
Still can't. Okay, you need to turn on your camera, I guess what I'm saying.
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, well, we still, you're, okay. And please identify yourself.
Good morning. My name is Leah. I'm a human trafficking survivor, and I apologize.
What is your, excuse me, Leah, what is your last name?
My name is Leah Isaac.
Okay. And where are you from?
Grand Forks.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you for listening to me this morning. I apologize if it's a little bit long-winded, but I'm going to try and get through this as quickly as possible because I believe it's important to hear the testimony of a human trafficking survivor. I had every intention of being there in person today, but unfortunately, my anxiety got the better of me. It's hard for me to be on camera publicly due to exposing myself. Safety and anonymity is something that has been elusive for me for the past 5 years. Isolation is at times my only sense of security. This is and remains a massive obstacle and concern for survivors, and this is why you will rarely see us speak publicly. There is nothing legally implemented at this time to keep survivors and whistleblowers protected. This issue, among many others, is what compels me to speak today. The desire to highlight these issues has been driving me forward amidst my fears. This present moment used to seem unimaginable. My story as a mother and survivor of human trafficking and systemic abuse began 2 years before I was brought to North Dakota. This is my testimony. A little over 5 years ago, I was busy being a single mom, raising my 2 daughters, managing a hair salon, living paycheck to paycheck, like many, doing my best to be and do it all. As a mother, life wasn't perfect, but always centered in love. I grew up in a small town in Minnesota, an uneventful and quiet community. My background includes jail administration, early childhood development, transportation, beautician management, floral design. My most favorite of these things is being a mom. The events that I'm about to relay to you changed mine and my daughter's lives 5 years ago. It began with a predatory landlord. I didn't see the red flags due to societal norms and never wanting to offend or hurt others. I thought everyone that smiled at me was a kind and good person. I grew up learning to trust everyone. I was no longer in that world. I was not taught that predators looked just like you and me. I thought they were obvious. That's what all the books and stories said. These predators take advantage of knowing this and use these societal norms and ignorance against these victims. I endured my landlord's advances, making polite excuses until I finally stood up for myself and said no. Everything changed dramatically from that point. He levied an eviction against me with false accusations. I fought the whole way to court with proof of his lies. The judge never looked at my documentation. My daughters and I were evicted. I sought legal aid and was denied help each time. It happens in weeks, not in months, like you think you'll have time. This opened the door to another predator to enter my life, a predator that my landlord was connected to within the same human trafficking network. If one can't get to you, they will send another one to try. Amidst the chaos unfolding, this predator came in the form of a boyfriend. This was no hero. This was just the beginning of events that would unfold in my life like a movie. Little did I know this man was tasked to groom me, methodically and secretly drugging me, evaluating me, and gathering information on me for a much darker and deeper network, using psychological warfare to instill in me trigger words to elicit a desired response in the victim. This can be a verbal cue or a symbol. Always watching me through cameras, neighbors, and others in the network. I was kept on a tight leash, my world growing ever smaller, stranger, and scarier. I began noticing small things. I slowly and methodically began uncovering and documenting what had been happening and being done to me. When I escaped my groomer, I was still ignorant. I had escaped him, but I had not escaped the network. What I can only describe as a car ride from hell the day I fled with my daughters, knowing I had a very narrow window to escape. This event ingrained in our memories like a nightmare. My story is a well-documented one, showing a timeline of events documented by Human Trafficking Hotline, FBI, numerous law enforcement agencies, several shelters, advocates, hospitals, various state-funded entities, and therapists spanning Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, and Colorado. Some of these professionals being eyewitness to nefarious and perplexing events surrounding me firsthand. Having accumulated knowledge and documentation as proof of what was happening to me and others and how it was being done was both revealing and distressing. As I uncovered more and more during my journey to find help, I found myself in an increasingly vulnerable state. After sending my daughters to safety, I was initiated into a 2-year journey of homelessness, where staying alive was a daily activity of outrunning and outsmarting the network. I continually reached out for help, contacting over 600 foundations, law enforcement agencies, various entities tasked with DV and HT, overturning any stone I found, yet I was mostly left to fend for myself. I was relentlessly pursued for over a year with threat of felony charges for fleeing with my daughters in my groomer's extra car, the same car that I turned over to police the same day we fled. The county I fled filing charges of theft while the car was already in police custody. Being shuffled around city to city on foot by buses, trains, planes, and strangers' cars around from state to state like an orphan that no one wanted to deal with. Being illegally held in psychiatric hold after calling 911 for help. Not because I was threatening to harm myself or others, but because I was speaking of things that were not to be spoken of. Sedating me, even though I was calm, restraining my wrists and ankles, waking 2 days later, dazed and confused, papers being shoved in my face to sign, my clothes handed to me in a rush. They couldn't get me out of the front door fast enough. Out to the street with no guidance or information for help, no empathy, no compassion, hungry and afraid. My mind and heart screaming from the inside, I am someone's daughter, someone's mother. Am I not worthy? Back on the street to play the game of survival again. Endless days of walking. Go here, go there. Maybe the next place can help. The next one can sure use a cup of hot coffee. Walking. Need food. I'm being followed. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I miss my babies. I'm cold. These thoughts echoing daily in my head. How can I be among thousands of people every day and no one sees me? I need help. Someone please help. Applying and reapplying for services, a maddeningly repetitive process that makes you question reality. Every place has more of the same paperwork, more of telling my story, more letdowns. Chasing my tail round and round the system I go. Many shelters I wouldn't have left my dog at. Unsafe, drugs, traffickers operating openly as if they ran the shelters themselves. Some were a bit safer and slightly better than the further away from the larger cities, which is to be expected. But this is where I saw and experienced more subtle abuses from within certain systems and people that worked at them. It was harder to detect, but nonetheless an effective form of abuse. Seeing and experiencing coercion through various tactics, misuse of power, authority, funds, and donations, also withholding services and basic human needs, shelters exploiting survivors in various ways, feeding women, children food that had been expired for 2 years. I was kicked out of a shelter for raising concerns about these issues to staff. I did find that some really did care, quietly, not always openly. I also saw the underbelly of this world. In one shelter, I was attacked, laying on the cement patio of the shelter with a head wound, blood coming from the gash on my head when my skull hit the pavement. Taken by ambulance to the emergency room, barely conscious, stitches to stitch me up. When asked by the doctor what happened, I said, it was because I have low blood pressure and passed out. He knew I was lying. I feared retaliation. I made it back to the shelter in a haze with a possible concussion. I stuffed a few things in my bag and left. No one from the shelter that I had spent the last 4 months called me to see what happened, take a report, or see I was okay. Open and vulnerable again, back to the streets. Some shelters felt like trap houses themselves, housing vulnerable women with men with only a flimsy door between you and them. These men openly making comments and advances. Women they know are broken and are afraid to say no. Back to the street. At the overnight shelters, I've seen grown men wandering into the women's area while we were sleeping, the man in only a shirt and underwear. The guard stationed at the women's door completely unconcerned while he flirts with homeless women. More predators back to the street. Staying sporadically in hotels some shelters would acquire for me when I was awaiting transport to their shelter, rarely vetting the accommodations, leaving myself and many others, some with children, in hotels known for drugs and trafficking. The transportation process is incredibly unsafe and chaotic. Many never make their destination due to being unaccompanied and out in the open where they are vulnerable to predators. Sitting for hours or even days at a train and bus station waiting to be shipped off, no money, no food, hoping to make it a little longer until you get to the next place to eat and sleep. Begging God that this next shelter, please let this next shelter be the one where I finally get help. Some pushing me straight to finding employment without proper stability. Thinking to myself, are you hearing me? I'm running from traffickers. I'm a woman whose life just blew up. No one was really listening. Just follow what they were programmed to do. I didn't need more administering to, regurgitating the same procedures from the same book. I needed someone to listen to me from outside the box. I needed someone to say, you're safe. And if we don't have all the answers, we will help you through it. Names and faces were the only difference in every new town. What I'm sharing with you all now are parts of my story rarely heard. It was 2 years of feeling like a rabbit chasing a carrot on a stick. I became malnourished. These kinds of places and entities prey on the vulnerable and put a strain on communities, creating damaging effects to people already broken and keep funding away from reputable ones. I was lured like many to different counties or even other states with the promise of help, only to realize it was another lie and dead end. I wasn't hiding, I hadn't given up. I was fighting every day for help. During those 2 years before arriving in North Dakota, I saw and endured heinous acts committed against myself and others. Even amidst the horrors, I knew I was lucky compared to what others have endured and still do. Crimes committed by predators from every walk in life and even from the systems that were allegedly designed to help and protect. Crimes being committed against vulnerable people. There are supposed laws against that. Being thrust into a world with injustice, addiction, and suffering, a reality that felt like a foreign language. It was complex and overwhelming, rife with inequities that even seasoned professionals struggle to navigate. I was seen as valuable to this predatory network due to my vulnerabilities. Little to no family support, no previous criminal or mental health history, and a demeanor of being kind, nice, and seemingly naive. I appeared programmable to them. They thought that no one would notice much if I disappeared. A network of predators linked together to exploit others. When you become a target of this network, you're no longer just facing an individual, but an entire system of organized entities, swirling you around within their systems, illusion of being free from the grasp, placing people around you and in your life. Every time they attempted to silence my voice, I would speak louder. I was punished when I did. Anytime I fought back, I was punished in some way, financially, psychologically, physically, even with the threat to loved ones. The reach into your life is cruelly invasive and pervasive. These are only a small fraction of insights into this predatory world, a fraction of what I and many others have and continue to endure, finding it difficult at times myself to comprehend the vastness and connectivity of this picture as a whole, and I lived it. Limiting overreach of law impedes law enforcement in their fight against human trafficking, along with just the sheer complexities of these cases. They lack funding for manpower and other necessary tools to combat trafficking. Then you enter into a nightmare of jurisdictional map with inconsistent laws across cities, counties, and states, tying everyone's hands. Scattered stories as survivors run from town to town, leaving law enforcement with more questions than answers on how to help. These 2 years of my life felt like a game of survival. But that all changed in July of 2021 when I called the Sheriff's Department for help. It was my Hail Mary moment. I was broken and twisted, a shell of my former healthy, bright, and optimistic self. The echoes lingering of being ridiculed, mocked, and shamed, labeling me as a liar, crazy, an unsuitable mother, and an addict. He asked me a few questions, made a call, and within hours, I arrived safely in a North Dakota shelter. I weighed less than 100 pounds, terrified and lost and alone after 2 years of seeking help with little success. All I wanted was to stop running, reunite with my daughters, find safe shelter, and access warm, healthy food and a chance to pick up the pieces of my shattered life. The shelter in North Dakota helped me begin that process and did so for over 3 years. After losing everything, my family, friends, and belongings, and being on the run for 2 years, the shelter felt like it was the light in the dark. This was when my real battle began, the battle to save myself, my family, my life, my soul. This North Dakota shelter and my community have helped me to achieve some of these goals. After stabilizing my housing, I began unraveling a monumental and complex puzzle of trauma, at times the shelter and advocates learning alongside me. I began unwrapping and walking myself through a complex labyrinth of healing. For instance, someone like myself that is a citizen with only an expired driver's license and no other documents due to state and federal laws made it almost a 2-year ordeal to acquire a proper driver's license and birth certificate. The hurdles of dealing with lack of laws to help secure anonymity to keep survivors safe outside of shelter. I consider myself one of the fortunate ones. I had a life before abuse that, while not perfect, provided a solid foundation, which I believed helped me in a quicker capacity in my healing. It also contributed to helping me navigate through a daunting world of corruption, systemic injustices, and human trafficking, not only at the hands of my perpetrators, but also from a system that is woefully inadequate to address such complex circumstances. The future. I do see changes being made, people from all walks of life coming together, connecting. The collaborative spirit is evident in our shared efforts to tackle the complex challenges we face. I believe North Dakota has the potential to be a model for communities and states nationwide, showcasing innovative solutions to end poverty, addiction, homelessness, abuse, and human trafficking. It's crucial that we educate and engage with our communities within communities. It's essential to recognize that wraparound services are often necessary for many human trafficking individuals. One person frequently requires a team to help rebuild their life. However, we still encounter gaps within these services. The issues isn't that people don't want to help, it's that many are unaware of the problems that exist. When others are enlightened about the challenges we face, they are often motivated to take action. I encourage everyone to ask questions. This is how we effectively find understanding and develop solutions to the issues at hand. Additionally, there is an unbalanced power dynamic that exists in government services meant to help those in need. It's crucial that we address this imbalance and ensure those who have lived these experiences have a voice at the table, helping shape our future. By documenting successes and challenges, this helps provide valuable insight and resources from others looking to replicate this model. In addition, focusing on holistic support system ensures that we are not just addressing immediate needs, but also investing in long-term solutions. By prioritizing mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being, we empower individuals to break free from cycles, fostering resilience within our communities. Together, we can cultivate an ecosystem that nurtures growth, healing, and opportunity. As I share my story, I invite others to learn from my experience in hopes of sparking a nationwide movement more towards sustainable change. While my story reflects a more positive outcome, there are still many hurdles I have to overcome. Work must continue to end abuse and vulnerabilities by reworking outdated policies that impede progress. We must prioritize giving seats at the table to those with real lived experience. It's essential that the voices of individuals who have faced these challenges we aim to address are included in the decision-making process. Decisions made in meetings about people like myself should genuinely reflect the experiences and needs of those affected. By involving survivors and individuals with lived experience, we ensure the policies and programs are not only relevant, but also effective. Additionally, we must address the broader issue of financial stability, which remain a significant barrier for many. Jobs are often an unrealistic prospect for many emerging from domestic violence, human trafficking, addiction, and homelessness. Without access to comprehensive support services that ensure a solid foundation and time to heal, individuals are at risk of falling back into these destructive cycles. To break this cycle, it's essential to address the fundamental vulnerabilities that many face. Access to stable housing, reliable transportation, nutritious food, and basic human needs is critical. Only by removing these barriers can individuals truly begin their healing journey. When people feel secure in their environment, they can focus on rebuilding their lives, pursuing education and job opportunities, and ultimately contributing positively to the community. We need to stop putting the cart before the horse and meet people where they're at. There is no one size fits all when it comes to needs and healing. Dreams and personal goals often feel elusive, but it's vital that we create pathways for those willing to invest in us, not just within the regular parameters of existing systems, but by valuing our ideas and contributions. Many individuals like myself have innovative thoughts and strategies that could enhance many initiatives. By integrating these perspectives, we can foster a more inclusive and effective approach to creating real change. Moreover, we must advocate for a more holistic approach to those seeking it, healing that encompasses spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical health. I chose a holistic path to my own care, oftentimes difficult to obtain due to no systematic or financial support. These elements are intricately connected and play a vital role in recovery. When we address only one aspect of well-being, we risk leaving individuals with incomplete support. True healing occurs when we consider the whole person. When those who have lived and navigated the complex issues of domestic violence, human trafficking, and homelessness and addiction are included in discussions, we create solutions that resonate deeply with the needs of others. These tables need our voices, our insights, our stories, and our perspectives, because we understand the nuances of these challenges in a way that others cannot. By fostering an inclusive environment that values experience and advocates for holistic health approaches, we can drive meaningful change. Together, we can develop strategies that lead to real and lasting solutions, creating an environment where every voice matters, every story counts, and where the journey of recovery addresses the full spectrum of human experiences. Funding should be priority for those with proven track records and innovative ideas, ensuring that we provide the necessary support to those in need effectively and sustainably. When resources are allocated to organizations and initiatives with demonstrated success, we can be confident that our investments are making a tangible difference in the lives of individuals and families. Traditional approaches may not suffice in a rapidly changing landscape, and fresh perspectives can lead to groundbreaking solutions. By funding organizations that prioritize innovation, we can encourage the development of new strategies that tackle issues like domestic violence, human trafficking, and systemic abuse more effectively. Investing in proven and innovative organizations enhances the support available to those in need and fosters a culture of accountability and excellence. It creates a competitive environment where organizations strive to improve their services, ultimately benefiting individuals and communities as a whole. I'm going to let you read through the, in conclusion, for stabilized housing, food security, aftercare needs, financial needs, protective services, streamlined services, anonymity, transportation issues, legal documents, mental health care. But I would like to add that access to mental health care, including therapy and counseling, helps survivors process their experiences and rebuild their mental well-being. But without addressing and solving the above stated issues, a survivor will generally continue to suffer with mental health issues. These mental health issues are directly related to all of the above. I speak not only from personal experience, but also from extensive research on effective solutions to these ongoing issues. Through continued conversations, collaboration, and informed action, we can provide survivors with the necessary tools and resources to rebuild their lives with dignity and security. I invite all of you here today to reach out to me, engage in further dialogue, and help create real sustainable change for those who have suffered unimaginable trauma. Together, we can ensure that no survivor is left behind, and that each has the opportunity to heal, regain independence, thrive, and once again become part of a community. I would like to ask everyone listening to take a moment and imagine yourself in another's shoes. And in that moment, I hope that life is often more complex and vibrant than we imagine. The world truly comes alive when we embrace new perspectives. We discover truth standing in others' shoes. And while it may not always be the truth we desire to confront, it remains essential. We need truth to rise to the surface loud and unyielding, echoing the screams of voices silenced or stifled. The experiences, both good and bad, have not only challenged me, but have also strengthened me. Each trial and tribulation has contributed to my growth layer by layer, shaping me into the woman and mother I am today. It's through this journey that I have learned resilience, compassion, and the importance of understanding others and myself. While I still face challenges and obstacles that are daunting and in need of immediate resolution, like the fact that my daughters and I have been kept separated for the past 5 years by a judicial system that is ignorant and unwilling to understand the nuances of human trafficking. I've been treated as a criminal instead of a survivor. My hope is that my words here today echo through the halls of the Capitol and reaches the hearts of those that can do something about it. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Questions from the committee? I don't see any questions, so thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Other testimony in support of House Concurrent Resolution 3028? Any testimony in opposition to House Concurrent Resolution 3028? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on House Concurrent Resolution 3028. We'll open the hearing on House Concurrent Resolution 3013 and ask the clerk to read the title.
A concurrent resolution urging the United States Supreme Court to restore the definition of marriage to a union between one man and one woman.
Representative Twite.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair Charles and Vice Chair Vetter, it's a pleasure to be in front of my own committee today. For the record, I am Representative Bill Twite, District 33 of Hazen. HCR 3013 urges the United States Supreme Court to reconsider its actions and restore marriage to a union between one man and one woman, as it always was before 2015, a mere 10 years ago. This is a crucial step in taking back our country, our culture, and our communities. You cannot conceive or birth children except for the coming together of a male and a female. You cannot have a company without children. You cannot perpetuate a country without the next generation, and you cannot raise strong children without moms and dads. It's just that simple. Mr. Chairman, with that said, I would like to walk you through a short history of the definition of marriage. It started just a little over 6,000 years ago. Genesis 2, verses 20 to 25. So the man gave names to all the livestock, the birds in the sky, and all the wild animals, but for Adam, no suitable helper was found. So the Lord God caused him to fall into deep sleep. While he was sleeping, he took one of the man's ribs and then closed up the place with flesh. Then the Lord God made a woman from the rib he had taken out of the man, and he brought her to him. The man said, "This is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, and she shall be called woman, for she is taken out of man." That is why man leaves his father and mother and is united with his wife, and they become one flesh. Genesis 4, verses 1 and 2 goes on to say, "And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I've gotten a man from the Lord. And she again bare his brother Abel." Marriage has been recognized as a covenant and an institution in common law between one man and one woman since Blackstone's commentaries in the laws of England. The commentaries are influential 18th century treatises on common law of England by Sir William Blackstone, originally published in the Clarendon Press at Oxford between 1765 and 1769. Though neither the U.S. Constitution nor the Bill of Rights refer to marriage, the basis of the laws of our country, which were clearly defined in the Declaration of Independence in Congress, July 4th, 1776. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America, when in the course of human events it became necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with one another, they assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the cases which impel them to separation. The Bill of Rights, the first 17 amendments were in their final ratification December 15th, 1791, 234 years ago. The 10th Amendment, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Constitution of North Dakota, Article 11, the general provisions in Section 28, 136 years ago. Marriage consists only of a legal union between a man and a woman. No other domestic union, however denominated, may be recognized as a marriage or given in the same or substantially equal legal effect. North Dakota Century Code, Chapter 14-03, marriage contract, 136 years ago. What constitutes marriage and a spouse defined? Marriage is a personal relation arising out of a civil contract between one man and one woman to which the consent of the parties is essential. The marriage relation may be entered into, maintained, annulled, or dissolved only as provided by law. A spouse refers to only to a person of the opposite sex who is a husband or a wife. The United States Supreme Court should not waive or overrule constitutional amendments in the state's constitution for light or transient reasons, nor should the Supreme Court rely on fraudulent arguments to advance their rulings. Further, two of the Supreme Court justices who ruled in the majority on Obergefell and versus Hodges had officiated same-sex weddings. They were Justice Kagan and Justice Ginsburg. Justice Kagan also actively promoted and supported LGBT rights while Dean of Harvard Law School. These actions alone should have forced them to recuse themselves from the case. Such recusal would have led to a 4-3 decision against Obergefell and thus against the same-sex marriage. Justice Thomas and Justice Alito wrote in 2020, due to Obergefell, those with sincerely held religious beliefs concerning marriage will find it increasingly difficult to participate in society without running afoul of Obergefell and its effect on the anti-discrimination laws. They went on to say, it would be one thing if recognition for same-sex marriage had been debated and adopted through the democratic process, with people deciding not to provide sanctuary protections for religious liberty under state law, they explained. But it's quite another when the courts force the choice upon the society through its creation of a textual constitutional rights and its eugenous interpretation of the free exercise clause, leaving those with religious objections in lurch. Mr. Chairman, committee, it's past time for North Dakota citizens to speak their displeasure with the Supreme Court's decision and call for restoration of the definition of marriage as only the legal union between a man and a woman. I ask for a do pass recommendation and I will stand for questions.
Questions from the committee? Don't see any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I would remind you, Mr. Chairman, that I have expert witness Arthur Shopper online.
Okay, we will go then online to Arthur Shopper. Mr. Shopper, are you there?
Yes.
And we can hear you. Please identify yourself. Go ahead. Questions from the committee? We don't have any questions. Thank you for your testimony. Other testimony in support of House Concurrent Resolution 3013.
As it urges the U.S. Supreme Court to restore the legal definition of marriage to be exclusively a union between one man and one woman. Marriage, by its very nature, is a union between a man and a woman. It's not just a social construct that stands for any relationship whatsoever between human beings, and it's more than a mere contract. Rather, marriage is a fundamental human and social institution established by God. Marriage was not created by the government, nor even by any particular religious group. This is evident from the fact that marriage between a man and a woman is found in every culture throughout the entire world across all of human history. While the government can regulate marriage and religions can celebrate and sanctify marriage, neither can redefine marriage to be something it is not. Since marriage has a God-given nature, it also has inherent purposes. It's almost self-evident that marriage is for the good of the spouses and for the bringing forth and raising of children. No ideology can erase the fact that marriage is between a man and a woman who, by a mutual and total self-gift to each other, form an intimate communion of persons. In this way, the husband and wife form an exclusive bond and union, both to support and perfect each other and to cooperate with God in procreating and raising children. Marriage as a natural institution with these inherent purposes is rooted in the natural sexual complementarity of being male and being female. These differences matter. The sexual differences between a man and a woman run much deeper than just mere cultural stereotypes. Being male or being female affects a person at the deepest levels of his or her existence, genetically, biologically, emotionally, psychologically, and socially. These deep-seated sexual differences make it possible for a man and a woman to unite in a full and complete and complementary way. Same-sex unions, on the other hand, lack the natural sexual complementarity found in marriage that's necessary for full union and procreative fruitfulness. Homosexual acts close the sexual act to the gift of life and do not proceed from a genuine, effective, and sexual complementarity that is at the very foundation of marriage. Homosexual couples may have genuine love and commitment to each other, that I would acknowledge, but this love and commitment does not and cannot make the relationship a marriage. The Supreme Court in the Obergefell decision wrongfully arrogated to itself the authority to redefine marriage to include same-sex couples. This decision is not rooted in the truth about marriage. Regardless of what the Supreme Court ruled, the nature of marriage between one man and one woman remains unchanged and unchangeable. The Obergefell decision was a tragic mistake that has caused great confusion and undermined the institution of marriage. It's also harmful to the common good because marriage is the foundation for the family, and the family is the basic cell of society. And as St. John Paul II once famously said, the future of humanity passes by way of the family. This is no trivial matter. In closing, let me state that our position is not motivated by animosity towards homosexual persons. The Catholic Church insists that society respect the dignity of all persons, including those with same-sex attraction. Homosexual persons have a right to and deserve our respect, compassion, and understanding, and we strongly condemn attacks, abuses, and any unjust discrimination based on sexual orientation. Even so, upholding the dignity of all persons is not inconsistent with upholding the essential institution of marriage. And so, based on the foregoing, we urge a do pass recommendation on House Concurrent Resolution 3013. That concludes my testimony, and I'm open to answer any questions.
Questions from the committee? Don't see any questions. Thank you for your testimony.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
So, committee and members of the public here, I'm just going to say that there are a lot of people who have submitted testimony, both for and against. We're going to take one more testimony in favor, and then we'll take an equal amount of time for those in opposition, which would take us to just about 11 o'clock. And at that time, we will take a short break, and then we're going to go on to House Concurrent Resolution 3021. So, further testimony in support of House Concurrent Resolution 3013.
Good morning, Chairman Clemene and honorable members of the House Judiciary Committee. My name is Mark Jortsma, and I'm the Executive Director of North Dakota Family Alliance Legislative Action. I'm testifying on behalf of our organization and the thousands of people across this state that we represent, that we are in support of House Concurrent Resolution 3013 and respectfully request that you render a due pass on this resolution. In June of 2015, Supreme Court rendered a 5-4 decision in the Obergefell v. Hodges decision that the 14th Amendment requires all states to grant same-sex marriages. There have been numerous challenges to this decision since that time, and given the current composition of the Supreme Court, reversal of this decision is certainly not outside the realm of possibility. However, the decision still stands today, and I will not go into the legal aspects of same-sex marriage as far as public policy, and I think that's been adequately covered by my predecessors up here. I'd like to speak about North Dakota and our deeply held values. The family was God ordained at the creation of the world, and it forms the foundation of our society. From families come communities, from communities come neighborhoods, from neighborhoods come societies, and from societies come nations and governmental structure. It's been shown over the century, time and again, within a multitude of civilizations, that family is the basis for a flourishing country and society. Given our state's expressed values in many matters of public policy in recent years, it's safe to say the vast majority of North Dakotans see the hub of the family wheel being the marriage of a husband and wife. This was certainly the case when our country and state were founded upon Judeo-Christian beliefs. These beliefs hold that marriage was created by God and is the basis for our society. Further, we believe human sexuality was designed and intended for our good within the bond of a committed, lifelong marriage between a husband and wife. If I may use something more recent and directly applicable to this issue, 17 days ago, the North Dakota Senate voted down Senate Bill 2264, a bill that essentially sought to do one thing: to change language through the Century Code so that marriage would be defined not only as a husband and wife who are biologically different, but also as two individuals who are of the same sex. The bill was soundly defeated with a 7-37 vote. While we would certainly never suggest that the North Dakota House need simply follow the Senate's lead or vice versa, we find it indicative that 84% of a North Dakota legislative body voted consistent with the principles embodied in this resolution. We support legislation that advocates for biblically based marriages, and we oppose policy that encourages individuals to pursue alternative definitions of marriage, given that it undermines traditional marriage values and the family as an institution, something Obergefell has certainly done. House Concurrent Resolution 3013 seeks to reaffirm the traditional definition of marriage, consistent with that of our country's founding and consistent with the values we hold dear as North Dakotans. As a result, North Dakota Family Alliance Legislative Action respectfully requests that you render a due pass on House Concurrent Resolution 3013, and thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the committee? I don't see any questions. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you very much.
This time, we'll take testimony in opposition to House Concurrent Resolution 3013.
Morning, Chairman Clemene, members of the committee. My name is Christina Sambor. I'm here on behalf of the North Dakota Human Rights Coalition. I circulated written testimony. I apologize, I missed the 8 a.m. cutoff on a Monday morning, so I brought my written testimony with me. The North Dakota Human Rights Coalition opposes House Concurrent Resolution 3013 and strongly urges this committee to recommend a do not pass. North Dakota should protect the rights of and extend acceptance and kindness to all of its citizens. This resolution seeks to do the opposite. The ideas put forth in this resolution are extraordinarily harmful to many North Dakotans and Americans who deserve equal rights and respect. The idea that same-sex families are in any way less stable or beneficial to our state and country than opposite-sex families has been disproven in courts. That's how Obergefell came about. Courts have the power to review legislation and determine whether or not it complies with our Constitution. North Dakota's Constitution contains more protections for individual liberty and the pursuit of happiness than the U.S. Constitution. When laws are passed based on discriminatory attitudes or the desire to impose one form of religion on all citizens and fail to advance any actual interests of the government, they are deemed unconstitutional. That is why the Supreme Court upheld the determination that excluding same-sex couples from the ability to legally marry was unconstitutional. Americans' political views support Obergefell and the recognition of same-sex marriage. Including same-sex couples in the group of Americans who can benefit from the legal recognition of their marriage is vitally important. Taking that inclusion away would take away many tangible benefits for no good reason, including tax benefits, rights to make end-of-life decisions, and rights to inherit property. Marriage is not solely a religious institution. It is an important legal union that deserves to be enjoyed by those who seek to enter it. Furthermore, the testimony of the prime sponsor examines North Dakota's right to marriage based on his understanding of biblical text and based on legal principles that are hundreds of years old. It is good for the members of this body to consider the dangers and flaws of relying on governing principles and documents drafted hundreds of years ago that were created without the perspectives of women, Native Americans, Black Americans, or people who are prohibited from owning property. This perspective, strict originalism, seeks to return us to rules and laws that were written at a time when most people were excluded from being represented within our government. By that logic, we are setting a standard that also argues for removing women from public office and only allows white people to have a role in government. Indigenous people who lived here well before the Anglo-American system of government was established by Europeans who immigrated to and eventually violently seized land occupied by Indigenous people were totally excluded from forming the United States government. The North Dakota State Legislature, whose membership includes many women and people of color, should not ignore that the arguments advanced in the prime sponsor's testimony, when taken to their logical conclusion, argue that only people like him who believe what he does deserve a voice in government. That is not who we are, nor who we should seek to be. Please recommend a do not pass on House Concurrent Resolution 3013.
Questions from the committee? Don't see any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other testimony in opposition to House Concurrent Resolution 3013.
Sorry. Okay.
Hello, my name is Samuel. I'm from District 41. I would like to read a passage from the Bible. Leviticus 20:10. If a man commits adultery with
Just a minute, please.
My apologies.
Yeah, I didn't quite get your name. What was
Samuel
it? Samuel what?
Bono, B-O-N-O.
B-O-N-O. Bismarck?
No, Fargo.
Fargo. Okay, go ahead.
So I would like to read a passage from the Bible, Leviticus 20:10. If a man commits adultery with another man's wife, with the wife of his neighbor, both the adulterer and the adulteress are to be put to death by stoning. If we are going to allow the Bible to define what is and is not marriage, if we are going to allow the Bible to define morality, then should we not also stone adulterers? That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question, Mr. Bono. There's a question from a member of the committee. Representative Twite.
Samuel, just a quick question. In my presentation as prime sponsor, did I not list the historical basis of what was written in the Bible and not necessarily the religious basis?
You were specifically using a religious definition. In fact, you started by saying that God defined marriage. I would argue that marriage predates Christianity.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other testimony in opposition to House Concurrent Resolution 3013? Anyone here in opposition? Okay, we have one online. And in opposition, Shayna, are you there? Okay. Who else is on? All right. Well, we don't have any other testimony in opposition. There is some written testimony. There's no one online. So I said we'd go to 11, so we'll go back to then those in favor of House Concurrent Resolution 3013. We do have someone online on that, I think. Who's that? Karen Krenz, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Would you please identify yourself?
Yes, I am Karen Krenz from Williston, North Dakota, District 1. I appreciate you giving me some time. You'll probably hear a lot that's already been spoken, but I think it's just good to know what other people are thinking. So I am asking for please render a due pass on HCR 3013. We live in an amazing country. Our founding fathers gave us the right to petition the government to redress grievances, essentially giving the government the opportunity to correct wrongs or fix a problem we have with a policy and seek changes or action. This is the right protected under the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, allowing citizens to peacefully voice their concerns without fear of punishment. This bill does just that. The 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution states that powers not given to federal government are reserved to states or the people. There is nothing in the U.S. Constitution regarding the definition of marriage. Justin Thomas himself wrote an opinion on this in Obergefell versus Hodges. Quote, in Obergefell versus Hodges, the court read a right to same-sex marriage into the 14th Amendment, even though that right is nowhere in the text. Several members of the court noted that the court's decision would threaten the religious liberties of many Americans who believe that marriage is a sacred institution between one man and one woman. If the states had been allowed to resolve this question through legislation, they could have included accommodations for those who hold these religious beliefs, unquote. Therefore, it belongs to the states and the people. Mentioned earlier, our North Dakota senators overwhelmingly just voted on the House January 31st, verifying what constitutes marriage. In Senate Bill 2264, it attempted to change what constitutes as marriage, but it failed in the Senate. Section 314-03-01 states, marriage is a personal relation arising out of a civil contract between one man and one woman, to which the consent of the parties is essential. The marriage relation may be entered into, maintained, annulled, or dissolved only as provided by law. A spouse refers to a person of the opposite sex who is a husband or a wife. I think the state of North Dakota has spoken loud and clear on the institution of marriage and the definition of it. We need to redress the Supreme Court to reserve the decision and recognize the natural definition of marriage as a union between one man and one woman, and insist on restoring the issue of marriage and enforcement of all laws pertaining to marriage back to the states and the people. Thank you for your consideration on this important issue, and I really thank you for your service to the state of North Dakota. Thank you.
Questions from the committee? I don't see any questions. Ms. Krenz, thank you for your testimony. Other testimony in support of House Concurrent Resolution 3013.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Delvin Boehm. I'm the chairman of the Republican Party of District 33, and I'm here in support of this concurrent resolution. I would say that President Trump here a couple weeks ago declared that there's been a war on gender ideology across this nation. And through the stroke of his pen in an executive order, he said that there will be two genders in our nation, again, a male and a female. And through that executive order, he said that we're going to return our country to common sense. Common sense is the genders of a male and a female. And through that, our nation, and not only that, but also our state, needs to return to common sense. The bedrock of our society is a male and a female, and through that, marriage, which has constituted the entire bedrock for our civilization for thousands of years. So through that common sense, I would strongly push for a due pass on this concurrent resolution. I would stand for any questions.
Questions from the committee? Don't see any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other testimony in support of House Concurrent Resolution 3013. Okay, and I ask for any in opposition. Is there anyone in opposition here? Oh. Okay, then we are going to close the hearing on House Concurrent Resolution 3013. What we're going to do, committee, is we're going to take a 10-minute break and come back at 11 o'clock for